January.
You're watching News Channel 2 at sunrise with Gary Liberator.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today is a Storm Tracker 2 alert day because of the possibility of some damaging winds as we head throughout the day. That being said, we will have some safety tips and a look at the current power outages in just a minute. First, though, let's get right to a check of your Storm Tracker 2 forecast. Meteorologist Eric Gage has a look at what we can expect throughout the day. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Gary. Yeah, we're dealing with some windy conditions for today. And here's a look at the current wind warnings in effect. The gold indicates high wind warnings. The tan indicates a wind advisory. Noticing Oneida, Herkimer, Lewis, Hamilton counties, Madison County, all in the high wind warning. This is not very typical for our area, seeing widespread strong winds like this, especially from the east. And we're talking about wind gusts between 40 and 60 miles per hour. That arrives in the evening, not right now, so things are quiet to start out your morning. Along with that, too, with the winds, we are dealing with starting out as wet snow, switching over to a wintry mix, and then finally over to rain showers as we head into the overnight hours today. And as you can see on the radar right now, looking pretty quiet. But zooming out, here is the low pressure system, and this one is a bit stronger than what we saw over the weekend. But again, we're on the warm side of this system, so we're not going to be seeing entirely all snow. We'll start out as a wintry mix and wet snow, lingering a little longer in the higher elevations, especially north and east of Utica. Turning over to a wintry mix could cause some tricky travel for evening commute, and then windy conditions pick up by the overnight hours. I'll time it all out and break everything down in the full forecast coming up. Back to you, Gary.
Eric, thanks. Crews with National Grid are standing by to respond to any potential outages, but it is important to remember if a power line does come down, assume it's live and stay away from it. Also, if you have a generator, make sure you keep it outside, and if you have a loved one who depends on electricity for life support equipment, you'll want to make sure they're registered as a life support customer. And you can do that by calling National Grid at 1-800-642-4272. Utica police investigators are still looking for the
WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Good morning, happy Tuesday. It's time to look at your morning and evening commute cast. First off, as you head out to work today, no travel impacts are expected. Roads looking clear, a little bit on the west side as snow melt occurred in some locations yesterday. Currently 29 degrees in downtown Utica. Then heading to the south, a live view of Cooperstown on Main Street. Again, roads looking a little bit more clear than yesterday. And of course, no travel issues are expected down there. A little cooler at 28 degrees. And finally, a live view from across some parts of central New York. Again, Route 8, Route 20 looking clear, Arterial looking clear. Same thing for North Genesee Street, and of course, I-90 in the bottom left-hand corner. Now, today will start out quiet. Things will change as the evening hours approach. Wet snow moves in, starting out in the early afternoon, lingering in the higher elevations north and east of Utica a little bit longer. So for now, expect a wintry mix for evening commute. Budget a little bit extra time, but once you start to see that wet snow switch over to sleet, then eventually rain showers, it'll remain rain overnight tonight. Gary?
Eric, thanks. On Capitol Hill, party leadership has...
From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning, welcome back. Happy Tuesday. Today starts out quiet, but turns pretty active as the afternoon evening approaches with a wintry mix, wet snow, gusty winds, strong winds, and then eventually switching over to rain overnight. A live look at downtown Utica right now. Quiet for the most part, wet roads. No travel impacts are expected as you head out the door today. And those temperatures, as well as you head out, are in the mid to upper 20s right here. 28 degrees officially at Grifferson Rome, with a patch of clear skies moving through otherwise mostly cloudy skies across the area. Winds right now at 7 miles per hour from the east, and these winds will only continue to get stronger as the afternoon approaches. A live look at the Yorkville Battery Storm Tracker 2 Doppler radar. We have some elevated moisture in the atmosphere. Not a lot of this is reaching the ground, but down to the southwest, this is where the notable system is quickly approaching. Dark blues indicating heavier, wet snow on the leading edge, and behind it, some pinks indicating a switch over to freezing rain, then sleet, and then over to rain showers very quickly, especially in the southern valleys. It'll take a little bit longer as you head up north and east of Utica and the higher elevations. So we're talking about very strong wind speeds, and this is all due to a rare event that we don't typically see here in central New York. We've got very strong high pressure north and east of us, and a very strong low pressure south and west of us. And this will sandwich right over central New York at the right position to the point where we're going to see wind gusts between 40 and 60 miles per hour along with this wintry mix in the area. So a rare instance where on our wind outlook we put damaging in the forecast, because winds will be strong, especially in some locations just downwind of higher elevations. And as you can see here, around noontime, 1 p.m., the winds start to pick up, wind gusts between 30 and 40 miles per hour, 20 as you head east. But as the evening hours approach, 5 to 9 p.m., this looks to be where the thick of the strongest wind gusts look to be. 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts across a lot of the area. And the highest risk for damaging winds look to be downwind, downsloping of some of the higher elevations. You can see here just downwind of the southern valleys right here in the Syracuse area down I-90. Same thing for Old Forge, Oneonta, and up north in Watertown. And the reason why these could be damaging is because typically throughout the year we see winds from the west, and the trees in the area are stronger facing to prepare for winds to the west. But this is going to be a strong easterly wind, and this could cause maybe some downed trees and some possible wind damage here. Along with that too, talking about a wintry mix moving through the area. It will start out as snow. This won't really stick to any areas generally south and east of Utica as it switches over to rain fairly quickly. It might take a little bit longer to switch over to rain in the higher elevations. As you can see here, the darker blue indicating a 2 to 4 inch snowfall range. But regardless, this won't stick around as it turns over to all rain by the evening hours. And so as you can see here, by noontime, the snow begins to start switching over to rain, especially south and east of Utica, or south and west of Utica. But as you can see here, it'll take a little bit longer north and east of Utica in the northern portions of Herkimer County. And so for today, again, a dry start. Wintry mix develops with high temperatures in the mid to upper 30s. This high occurs overnight tonight. And then tonight, overnight lows falling only into the mid 30s. Your 7-day forecast, a little warmer to start out your Wednesday, then things cool down throughout the day. Rain switches over to some light snow throughout the evening hours, and then lake effect snow moves into some parts of the area, especially in the Tug Hill Plateau Thursday and in parts of Friday. And then we're going to take it one system at a time. We've got another system in the forecast that looks similar to this, starting out as snow, then switching over to wintry mix and rain this weekend.
I think you ordered it all because you love it. You love doing all that stuff.
We've been spared so much with the winter so far this year. Now it's all coming in 1 week.
Yeah, I love your energy when it comes to these storms. You're so excited. Eric, thanks. The time right now is 5:21.
You're watching News Channel 2 at sunrise with Gary Liberatore.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this half hour. I'm Gary Liberatore. A lot to get to this half hour of sunrise, but first, today is a Storm Tracker 2 alert day because of some high wind gusts that are expected. Let's head right over to the Weather Center. Meteorologist Eric Gage joining us now. And Eric, you were mentioning up to 60 miles per hour possibly, right?
Yeah, that's right. This is a rare setup we don't usually see in the Northeast. A strong easterly wind that could cause some possible wind damage, as trees around the area are usually accustomed to winds from the west. So when you have a strong wind to the east, the trees aren't usually prepared for stuff like that. So that plus with a wintry mix arriving in the evening, today would be a Storm Tracker 2 alert day. Let's get to the latest information right now. Again, there is a wind alert, wind warnings in effect for a lot of the area. Oneida, Herkimer, Madison, Lewis, Hamilton counties, all in a high wind warning. The winds will pick up in the early afternoon, but be the strongest after sunset in the mid to late evening. Also a wind advisory in effect for Shenango and Otsego counties. And again, the main concern is going to be damaging winds, possibly with 40, 60 mile per hour wind gusts, possible power outages. And again, it's the weather while this is going on will be dicey as well, starting out as wet snow, turning over to a wintry mix, and then eventually over to rain showers, and a minor risk for some minor flooding in flood-prone areas, but the heaviest rainfall looks to stay south and east of our area, so that's not the biggest concern right now. And as you can see in the radar, the wintry system is fast approaching. This morning, it starts out dry. No impacts are expected, but as we head into the evening hours, a snow-wintry mix starts set up. Windy conditions move in. I'll time it all out and have all the latest details in that full forecast coming up. Back to you, Gary.
Eric, thanks. Some sad news out of Otsego County.
The Cooperstown Cam is brought to you by Utica National Insurance Group.
Good morning and welcome back. We have another cool photo to show you guys this morning. This one taken in New York Mills. Look at this right here. A snow buffalo. Looks just like, of course, the Buffalo Bills logo as well. And also good news on that. They are advancing into the playoffs. I know my team, the Minnesota Vikings, a bit of a disappointing year this year, but a lot of my family are Bills fans, so go Bills. If you want to send your picture in, send it to WKTV.com/weather/pics. We'll, of course, try to show it, one of your pictures that get sent in every morning here on News Channel 2 at sunrise. Local temperatures in the 20s, 29 degrees Whitesboro, 29 degrees in Westmoreland, 21 as you head up into Inlet, 27 Cooperstown, 26 degrees in Earlville. And things are quiet starting out this morning on the Yorkville Battery Storm Tracker 2. Top of the radar, we have elevated snowflakes in the atmosphere right now, but a lot of that is not reaching the surface at this point. But weather will start to turn more active as the afternoon approaches. More details on that coming up. Back to you, Gary.
Eric, thanks. A fierce tornado made a tense touchdown right near a Florida city center, and it was all caught on multiple cameras. Reporter Jeremy Roth has that and shows us how a beaver break-in led to a wild goose chase with police. It's all in this morning's edition of Take a Look at This.
Eyewitnesses in Florida captured shocking video, literally, as a tornado touched down in the city of Fort Lauderdale, sending sparks and flames flying as it wreaked havoc. Cameras were recording from multiple angles as the storm moved through, churning up a funnel of flames and smoke as it touched down. Damage to property was reported in parts of the city, including both on and off the water, but thankfully no injuries. Officials are saying this was the country's second official tornado of 2024, but with lots of wet and wintry weather conditions forecasted for most of the country, there could be more wild weather on the way. Speaking of wild, police were led on a wild goose chase by a beaver that found its way into a Tennessee hospital. Video released by Bartlett PD shows the beaver discovered under a piano inside the hospital, then setting off a brief but wily pursuit. After the cops made their crazy collar, the beaver got another wild ride in a wheeled cart officers used to safely relocate the little guy into a nearby waterway where he plopped right in and paddled right off. Finally, another animal rescue had a happy ending after police in Cleveland, Ohio had to crawl into a tight spot to rescue a kitten that was stuck in the bowels of a university shuttle bus. The rescue took a couple of hours but was a success, and after the feline was freed and taken back to the station, a police dispatcher reportedly fell in love and adopted the kitten right on the spot. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
The time now, 5:45.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning, happy Tuesday. A lot to get through today. We've got active weather moving in, but at least for this morning, enjoy the quiet conditions out there right now. Live look at downtown Utica from our Nexus camera. We're looking at quiet roads out there this morning. Temperatures in the 20s with a decent wind from the east. However, this wind will continue to rise throughout the late morning, early afternoon, and remain the strongest as we approach the evening and overnight hours, with the wind gusts between 40 and 60 miles per hour. And a live look at the Yorkville Battery Storm Tracker 2 top of the radar. We do have some elevated snow flurries ahead of the wintry system approaching us from the southwest, but that's not really reaching the ground. But as we look out near parts of Pennsylvania, that darker blue indicating heavier wet snow falling. We've got temperatures right around freezing. That's that snow that is wet and dense and hard to shovel. But this won't stick around here in central New York. That rain immediately follows. So even though things make it a little dicey in terms of travel conditions this evening, it won't last too long, and it switches over to rain by the overnight hours. So we have a bit of a rare setup here in central New York, at least for this time of year. We've got high pressure, strong high pressure, north and east of central New York. Then we have a strong low pressure arriving from the southwest. Central New York will be sandwiched right in between these two systems, and when you have such a strong pressure gradient between these two systems, it creates widespread windy conditions, and of course that occurs right here locally. And we don't put this option up here too much on our wind outlook, but we decided it's justified for today. Damaging winds possible in some locations for this evening in the overnight hours, and exactly where I'll explain in just a minute. But as you can see here, this morning, a few gusty winds, nothing too bad. By this afternoon, winds start to pick up between 20 and 40 miles per hour. Then by the late evening into the overnight hours, wind gusts between 40 and 60 miles per hour. Widespread purple on the map here, we don't usually see here in central New York. And so the wind risk potential is primarily in these red areas indicated right here, just downwind of the Catskills. Same thing across from the southern valleys, just outside of it, parts of Syracuse and the I-90 corridor. Same thing for Old Forge, downwind of the Adirondacks, and finally downwind of Tug Hill over in Watertown. And that's due to what's called downsloping, when you have stronger winds rushing down the slopes on the backside of higher elevations. And again, the strongest winds occur in the evening and overnight hours. In regards to snowfall, we're seeing a trace 2 inches in a lot of the area, but this won't stick around. Switch over to rain fairly quickly. This might stick around a little bit longer as you head closer to the Adirondacks, with 2 to 4 inches in that darker blue. And so your skycast for today, starting out as wet, clumpy snow by the early afternoon to the early evening hours. But as you can see, that blue switches over to rain, and it slowly erodes. The highest elevations might see some snow stick around by the latest 7 p.m., but regardless, by the overnight hours, it all whisks away, and we're talking about rain showers overnight. And so for today, highs in the mid-30s, a dry start with a wintry mix in the evening and windy conditions. Tonight will actually be warmer overnight than it will be for at least most of today and tomorrow, with a low of 36. 7-day forecast, again, tracking all that for the weather today. Rain switches over to snow, light snow on Wednesday, lake effect primarily in the Tug Hill region on Thursday. And we're taking it one system at a time, but we're looking at another similar setup to this coming weekend too. So a bit of an active weather pattern. We've been pretty lucky in terms of not seeing anything pretty severe over the past several months. So
Yeah, January a lot different than December.
Yep.
That's for sure. Eric, thanks, and stay with us. More news is up right after this.
You're watching News Channel 2 at sunrise with Gary Liberator.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. I'm Gary Liberator. Today is a Storm Tracker 2 alert day because of the possibility of some damaging winds as we head throughout the day. And that being said, we'll have some safety tips in just a moment. First, though, let's get right over to the Storm Tracker 2 Weather Center. Meteorologist Eric Gage has a look at what we can expect throughout the day, and you were talking up to 60 miles per hour. That's something we don't normally see.
Yeah, and those types of winds we would see in a thunderstorm, one of those smaller thunderstorms. This is more of a widespread event that we don't typically see here in central New York. And again, 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts are possible as we head into the late evening hours. So again, to look at what to expect for today, we have those high wind warnings in effect for Madison, Onondaga, Oneida, Herkimer, Hamilton, Lewis, Oswego counties. High wind advisories for Otsego, Shenango, Fulton, Montgomery counties, but there could be some wind gusts down there as well that could be on the stronger side. But the strongest wind gusts are in the areas highlighted in gold. And again, it is an alert day for today, and the primary concern, as Gary mentioned, were those possibly damaging winds between 40 and 60 miles per hour. The winds will be coming from the southeast to east, and that could cause issues for some weak trees and power lines, as well as, of course, with the wind damage and power outages as well. Then on top of that, we've got a wintry mix developing this afternoon, starting out as wet snow, then quickly turning over to sleet, then possibly freezing rain before it switches over to rain showers by the overnight hours, and a minor concern for flooding in flood-prone areas, but the highest risks are south and east of central New York, where the heaviest rainfall will set up. And a live look at the radar right now, we're looking at quiet conditions here locally, some elevated flurries in the atmosphere, but down to the southwest, that's where all the active weather is. A strong low-pressure system is approaching central New York. And for today, again, a quiet start. You're heading out to work this morning. No travel issues are expected. Roads are clear. The temperatures in the 20s as well. But as you approach the afternoon, things will get a little bit on the dicey side in terms of travel conditions, especially north and east of Utica and the higher elevations. Of course, I'll tell you about exactly who sees the most amount of snow, as well as the travel impacts in that full forecast coming up. Back to you, Gary.
Eric, thanks. Many crews with National Grid will be standing by later today and tonight to respond to any power outages. But it's important to remember, if a power line does come down, assume it's live and stay away from it. Also, if you have a generator, make sure you keep it outside. And if you have a loved one who depends on electricity for life support equipment, you'll want to make sure they are registered as a life support customer. And you can do that by calling National Grid at 1-800-642-4272. And of course, stay with our weather team throughout the day and evening for the very latest on the storm that will be moving in. Utica police are still looking.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Good morning, welcome back. Time now for your commute cast as you head out the door today. This morning, no travel issues are expected. A live view of downtown Utica from our Nexus camera. 28 degrees, clear roads. Should have no issues driving into work today. Same thing as you head down in the Southern Valleys. A live view of Main Street in Cooperstown. Still 28 degrees, but as you can see there, clear roads as well. And of course, taking a look across the Utica area, first I-90 down the Herkimer Mohawk exit, clear roads. Same thing for Route 8, Route 20, Arterial, and North Genesee Street. This will change as the evening approaches. Again, quiet weather today as you head out the door, but by your evening commute, wet snow will begin to fall, switching over to a wintry mix, and then eventually over to rain showers by the late evening. So we're thinking the start time of the wet snow is between 12 and 2 p.m. And then it will linger in higher elevations north and east of Utica a little bit longer. So if you do live in the southern valleys, it'll switch over to rain fairly quickly. And if you look outside, once it switches over to rain, it will stay as rain. But until then, if you see wet snow on the road, just exercise caution, as wet snow could be a little slick. Gary?
Eric, thanks. On Capitol Hill, party leadership reached a deal on top line.
From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning. Welcome back. Happy Tuesday. We've got a lot to get through today regarding active weather, wintry mix, wet snow, gusty, possibly damaging winds. We'll get through that all in a few minutes. A live look, though, at downtown Utica from our Nexus camera. If you're heading out to work this morning, no travel impacts are expected. This system is still south of us right now, and so as you head out the door, things will look pretty quiet. Same thing with temperatures in the upper 20s, with a patch of clear skies mixing in with mostly cloudy skies across a lot of the area. Winds 10 miles per hour right now, not too bad, but these will continue to rise as the afternoon continues on. And a live look at the Yorkville Battery Storm Tracker 2 top of the radar. We have elevated moisture in the atmosphere, elevated flurries falling. Not a lot of this is reaching the ground, but in between this system and the south is, of course, we got some snow. Wet snow, leading edge, turning over to rain showers, as you can see right here into parts of Pennsylvania. This section right here will shift into central New York roughly between 12 and 2 p.m. and linger throughout the afternoon. Now, we're talking about strong winds this evening, and this is not a very common setup in the Northeast. We've got very strong high pressure set up north and east of central New York and a very strong low pressure to the southwest. Now, these two systems will converge over pretty much the central New York area, pretty much all the state. And with such strong pressure gradient between these two systems, it is a perfect condition setup, windy, possibly damaging wind setup here in central New York. And we don't usually put this on our wind outlook, but we felt it's justified for today. Gusty winds, possibly damaging winds expected by the evening hours, in the overnight hours tonight. Winds will be slightly more calm as you approach later on in the week, but again, the main concern is going to be for today. And as you can see this morning, some wind gusts between 10 and 20 miles per hour, nothing major. A little bit more windy by the early afternoon. Again, this is not too concerning, but what is concerning is the late evening. We've got wind gusts, as you can see here, 5 p.m. between 30 and 40 miles per hour, then 40 to 50 miles per hour, with some cases as high as 60 across a lot of the area, especially in the highest elevations. And due to downsloping, where stronger winds will be in the backside of the hilltops, you can see the ranges of the most likely scenario for damaging winds in the red areas indicated right here in parts of Otsego County, just downwind of the southern valleys here in the I-90 corridor in southwestern Oneida County, up in Old Forge, downwind of the Adirondacks, and then finally up near Watertown, downwind of the Tug Hill Plateau. And regarding snowfall, we're going to see some wet snow this afternoon, but this won't stick around. This switches over to rain showers fairly quickly in the southern valleys. It might stick around a little bit longer in the north country, but regardless, it turns over to all rain as we approach the overnight hours. And in our skycast, you can see here, around noontime, that's when the snow begins to fall. Heavy, wet snow develops between 3 and 5 p.m., but notice this rain line right here. It switches over to rain in the southern valleys fairly quickly, and it will stick around a little bit longer in those highest elevations until around 9, 10 p.m. Then it switches over to all rain by, again, the overnight hours. And so for today, a dry start. Wintry mix sets up, windy conditions with highs warming up overnight tonight with temperatures in the mid to upper 30s. Your 7-day forecast, alert day for today. Again, the main concern, gusty, possibly damaging winds. Rain switches over to light snow on Wednesday, dealing with lake effect, especially in the Tug Hill Plateau on Thursday. And taking it one storm system at a time, we've got another similar setup to this with snow switching over to a rain heading into this coming weekend. So an active weather pattern as we approach the next few days.
Yeah, at least a day or two between each of these storms.
Yeah, a bit of a break. We'll take the breaks here and there.
That's for sure. Eric, thanks. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Our social...
Watching News Channel 2 at sunrise with Gary Liberator.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this half hour. I'm Gary Liberator. A lot to get to, but first, today is a Storm Tracker 2 alert day because of some high wind gusts that are expected. Let's head over to the Weather Center. Meteorologist Eric Gage joining us now. And Eric, these winds 40 to 60 miles per hour. Wow.
Yeah, some strong winds, and we mentioned it previously, but these types of winds we usually see in thunderstorms. Isolated, it usually lasts a few minutes, and with this, it's more of a widespread event. A lot of people are going to see 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. The highest, the 60 mile per hour end, will be on the highest elevations, just on the downslope on the northwestern side of those hilltops. So if you live in the southern valleys, the northwestern portion, like closer to Madison County, same thing up near Old Forge, downwind of the Adirondacks. That's where the highest winds are going to be located. And to getting to that right now, we've got high wind warnings in effect for Oneida, Herkimer, Madison, Lewis, Hamilton counties. Strongest winds in the highest elevations on the northwestern side of those hilltops. And we do have wind advisories in effect for Shenango, Otsego, Fulton, and Montgomery counties. And that will be the primary concern today. We've got a lot to get through, a lot of weather going on, but that's the main thing. Possibly damaging winds between 40 and 60 mile per hour wind gusts in higher elevations. And this will be primarily tonight in the evening hours. The winds will be stronger in the afternoon, but won't pick up too much until the evening. We also have to deal with wet snow, switching over to wintry mix, and then to rain showers. So that will be from a low pressure system arriving from the southwest. There's a minor concern for minor flooding and flood prone areas in the overnight hours with additional rain showers, but it'll be primarily south and east of our area as the heaviest rainfall again looks to set up outside of central New York. This is a look at current things right now on the radar. That strong low pressure system is bringing heavy wet snow to portions of Pennsylvania at this point, and that will continue to shift northward into central New York. And for today, highs in the mid-30s, a dry start. No travel is expected for your morning commute. However, things will turn a little dicey as we approach the evening hours. I'll explain it all in detail, timing it all out, and talk about impacts in that full forecast coming up. Back to you, Gary.
Thanks. Some sad news out of Otsego.
The Cooperstown Cam is brought to you by Utica National Insurance Group.
Good morning and welcome back. Yesterday, we showed you a 15-foot snowman in East Herkimer, a beautiful and honestly something I couldn't do, a snowman built yesterday. But this one, another cool one here too. Take a look at this. This is a snow buffalo in New York Mills. That is just absolutely impressive. And to me, it looks a lot like the Buffalo Bills mascot as well. And for me, my team, the Minnesota Vikings, a bit of a disappointing season this year, but a lot of my family are Buffalo Bills fans. And so as they go into the playoffs, go Bills. A look at current conditions right now, starting out with temperatures in the 20s across the area. 28 Little Falls, 22 Inlet, a bit cooler, 18 up in Lake Pleasant, 29 Westmoreland, 28 degrees in Earlville, 27 degrees in Cooperstown. And a live look at the Yorkville Battery Storm Tracker 2. Top of the radar, all is quiet right now. We're seeing elevated flurries on the radar at this point. However, things will turn a bit more active as we approach the evening hours. I'll explain in more detail the timing, the arrival of the snow showers, wind speeds, and potential impacts for that in detail coming up. Back to you, Gary.
Eric, thanks. A fierce tornado made a tense touchdown right near a Florida city center, and it was caught on multiple cameras. Reporter Jeremy Roth has that and shows us how a beaver break-in led to a wild goose chase with police. All in this morning's edition of Take a Look at This.
Eyewitnesses in Florida captured shocking video, literally, as a tornado touched down in the city of Fort Lauderdale, sending sparks and flames flying as it wreaked havoc. Cameras were recording from multiple angles as the storm moved through, churning up a funnel of flames and smoke as it touched down. Damage to property was reported in parts of the city, including both on and off the water, but thankfully no injuries. Officials are saying this was the country's second official tornado of 2024, but with lots of wet and wintry weather conditions forecasted for most of the country, there could be more wild weather on the way. Speaking of wild, police were led on a wild goose chase by a beaver that found its way into a Tennessee hospital. Video released by Bartlett PD shows the beaver discovered under a piano inside the hospital, then setting off a brief but wily pursuit. After the cops made their crazy collar, the beaver got another wild ride in a wheeled cart officers used to safely relocate the little guy into a nearby waterway where he plopped right in and paddled right off. Finally, another animal rescue had a happy ending after police in Cleveland, Ohio had to crawl into a tight spot to rescue a kitten that was stuck in the bowels of a university shuttle bus. The rescue took a couple of hours but was a success, and after the feline was freed and taken back to the station, a police dispatcher reportedly fell in love and adopted the kitten right on the spot. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning, welcome back. Happy Tuesday. Things are turning more active as the afternoon arrives, but this morning, weather is pretty quiet with patches of clear skies in what's otherwise a mostly cloudy start to your day. A live look at downtown Utica from our Nexus camera. Heading out this morning, again, no travel impacts as you head out the door. No issues whatsoever. That will change as the evening arrives. Now, winds are a little bit on the gusty side, wind speeds at 10 miles per hour, but this will pick up as the afternoon approaches, and of course, the strongest winds are expected this evening. Now, we do have some elevated flurries on the radar. This is not really reaching the ground. We've got dry air in place near the surface, but this will change as we look down to the southwest. Here is that strong low pressure system. That low pressure is actually right over here. And on the leading edge of this, there's warm air moving in from the south, but there's cold air in place. So this warm air is surging over this cold air and dropping wet snow. As you can see here, that dark blue indicated in portions of Pennsylvania. That'll move into our area by the early part of this afternoon. Could cause some tricky travel situations, but it won't last too long because this snow will switch over to a wintry mix and then eventually rain more quicker in the higher elevations in the southern valleys. And it might linger a little bit longer as you head up north and east of Utica near the Adirondacks. So we're talking about strong winds today. This is all due to a rare setup here in central New York. We've got very strong high pressure up north and east in Canada, and we've got low pressure, a strong one, south and west of our area. Now, these two systems are going to converge right over central New York, and the gradient, the pressure gradient, think of it as like a slide on the playground. You got weak high pressure, weak low pressure. The slide is very gradual. However, when both of these are strong, the slope is very steep, and of course with steep slopes, you go down the slide a little faster. That's a story here locally with those windy conditions, and that's why, even though we rarely put it on our wind outlook, we decided to put it in for today. Gusty, strong, even damaging winds possible on the northwestern parts of hilltops here in central New York. And timing out the winds this afternoon, it starts out a little bit gusty, but not too bad. By the evening hours, the winds will pick up by 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. That's where the strongest winds will start to form. You can see 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts here in the valley, 40-mile-per-hour up in Boonville, 45 down in Morrisville. Then by the evening hours, in the 40 to 60-mile-per-hour wind gust range. These are gusts, not steady winds, but with gusts like these could be strong enough to cause possibly damaging winds. And you notice the red areas indicated right here. The strongest winds will be downsloping because of downsloping just outside of the highest elevations on the northwestern side of hilltops. So if you live on the northwestern side of a hilltop, you're likely to see the strongest winds as the winds will be from the southeast. And regarding snowfall, trace of 2 inches possible in a lot of the area, but this won't stick around too much. Again, it does switch over to rain showers fairly quickly south of I-90. It might stick a little bit longer in the north country, but regardless, it turns over to entirely rain by the overnight hours. And so real quickly, looking at our Skycast, starting out as snow showers by around noontime. Some areas could see it a little bit sooner, but regardless, between 3 and 5 p.m., wet snow as you head north and east of Utica, rain showers south and west, and it turns over to all rain for the most part for central New York with just some higher elevations still sticking to snow, and then all rain by the overnight. And so for today, highs in the mid-30s, a dry start, wintry mix, windy conditions this evening. Tonight, it doesn't cool down too much. It actually warms up into the upper 30s and then cools down during the afternoon tomorrow with some rain showers turning over to some snow, light snow Wednesday afternoon. Lake effect snow on Thursday, breezy conditions, then drying out briefly Friday. And then we're talking about another system that looks just like this arriving next weekend.
Now, you're watching News Channel 2 at 7 a.m. on CW 11 with Gary Liberatore.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us here on the CW11. I'm Gary Liberatore.
And I'm Storm Tracker 2, meteorologist Eric Gage.
And today, another alert day, 2 in the past, 3 days now?
Yeah, that's right. As quickly as one came, another one showed up too. And this one, the risks a little bit different. Over the weekend, it was mainly snow, because we haven't seen snow in a while. For today, though, the main concern is going to be gusty, possibly damaging winds, and this will be more widespread. These are not going to be embedded in thunderstorms. These will be a widespread event, primarily on hilltops. And along with that, too, a wintry mix is expected this evening. But again, a look at what to expect today. Starting out, we've got high wind warnings. You don't usually see this too often here in central New York. High wind warnings for Madison, Onetta, Herkimer, Hamilton, Lewis counties, especially in the northwestern side of hilltops. That's the strongest winds will be expected, and that's the main concern today. Possibly damaging winds, power outages possible as well, with wind gusts between 40 and 60 miles per hour. After that, though, our next concern will be some tricky travel during your evening commute. Your morning commute is fine. Evening commute with wet snow, switching over to wintry mix, and then eventually rain showers. Once it switches over to rain, travel impacts are all but gone. And there's a minor risk for minor flooding in flood-prone areas, but the risk is lower than the areas south and east of our area where most of the rain eventually sets up. And the radar looking pretty quiet here locally, but as you turn our attention to the south and west, that's where the strong low pressure system is coming, and you can see those darker blues indicating heavier and wetter snowfall rates across some parts of Pennsylvania. And again for today, a dry start, temperatures starting out in the 20s, a wintry mix following wet snow starts to develop by this afternoon, then over to rain showers overnight tonight, but then overnight we're talking about very strong winds, and of course we'll have the very latest details in that full forecast coming up. Back to you, Gary.
Eric, thanks. And crews with National Grid are standing by, ready to respond to any potential outages. But it's important to remember, if a power line does come down, assume it's live and stay away from it. Second, if you have a generator, make sure to keep it outside. And if you have a loved one who depends on electricity for life support equipment, you'll want to make sure they're registered as a life support customer, and you can do that by calling National Grid at 1-800-642-4272. And of course, stay with our weather team all day, all evening, and tomorrow morning for the very latest on this storm as it moves through. Utica police are still looking.
From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning, happy Tuesday. A quiet start to your day today. However, things turn pretty active as the afternoon and evening approach. A live look at downtown Utica heading to work this morning. No impacts are expected for your travels, with temperatures starting out in the upper 20s, low 30s, with clear skies mixing in some parts of the area. But as you can see here in downtown Utica, looking at overcast skies. And a live look at what to expect for today. Starting out, a bigger picture, and I believe I'll get to the radar fairly quickly right now. Live look at the radar, we're seeing a few bands of some light snow here and there, but a lot of this is elevated, not near the surface. However, the broader picture is the wet, heavy snow is currently south and east of our area. This will approach us by the early afternoon, then switch over to rain showers after a wintry mix during the early evening. Now, looking at the bigger picture, we've got two systems, a strong high pressure north of us and a strong low pressure south and west of us. And there is such a strong pressure gradient between these two that very strong winds will be present right in the middle of these two pressure centers. Think of it as a slide on the playground. Normally a slide will be gradual, however, picture this one as a much more steep slide. You will go down the slide faster. Same thing with weather. The winds will be stronger going from high to low pressure. However, the winds near the surface will be coming in from the southeast. And so we don't do it too often, but we felt it was justified for today to put damaging winds on our wind outlook for today. Gusty winds are possible lingering into Wednesday, but not nearly as strong as what we're expecting tonight. And so this morning, a few wind gusts here and there, nothing major. Same thing for this afternoon. Stronger winds, but still nothing too bad. As we approach the evening hours, we're seeing lots of reds and purples indicating wind gusts between 40 and 60 miles per hour. The strongest wind gusts being roughly between 6 and 9 p.m. And the hilltops, generally on the northwestern side of those hilltops, we'll see the strongest winds, and those could be damaging, especially with trees that are typically used to seeing westerly winds. An easterly wind, the roots aren't as strong, and of course that could knock them over, causing some minor wind damage and possible power outages. Regarding snowfall, because we've got snow on the leading edge of the system, it'll produce wet, clumpy snow, but it won't last too long. We've got trace of 2 inches here in the Mohawk Valley and south, but it switched over to rain fairly quickly. Same thing for the North Country, 2 to 4 inches of snowfall heading up in the north, but this won't stick around, so don't expect to see 2 to 4 inches of snow on the ground heading into the overnight hours, as it all switches over to rain, and the snow will actually decrease by the overnight hours. And so quickly looking at our skycast, we've got snow starting out by the early afternoon. Some locations could see it a little sooner, but then as the afternoon progresses, we're talking about wet, dense snow over some parts of the area, generally north and east of Utica. Look at this line right here. To the south and west, rain, north and east, wet snow. That cold air gradually erodes as the evening progresses, and just by 7 to 9 p.m., some lingering locations in higher elevations could still see that snow before it switches over to all rain showers by the overnight hours. And so again for today, highs in the mid to upper 30s. These highs will happen overnight tonight, with the warmest temperatures occurring with rain showers after a wintry mix. In your 7-day forecast, rain switching over to light snow Wednesday, lake effect snow primarily in the Tug Hill region on Thursday, and we're monitoring another system like this approaching this coming weekend.
News Channel 2 at noon with Gary Liberator.
And good afternoon. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I'm Steve McMurray in for Gary today. We begin this noon with a look at quite the weather system about to hit our area. First some snow, then some rain, and all along some very potentially dangerous winds. Meteorologist Eric Gage tracking it all for us in the Weather Center. Eric, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Steve. Yeah, that's right. We got a bit of a complicated winter system moving into our area, bringing not just snow, wet snow, and then after that, a wintry mix turning over to rain showers as winds pick up. And then at the end of this, we have to deal with the possibility of some minor flooding concerns. A live view of Oneonta right now. You can see the snow falling. This snow is wet, mixing in with some sleet here and there. Again, those temperatures are hovering right around freezing in some locations. Snow already starting to fall here in downtown Utica right now. And again, we are dealing with some wind advisories in effect right now. As a matter of fact, we have high wind alerts, high wind warnings for Madison, Oneida, Herkimer, Hamilton, and Lewis counties, and wind advisories in effect for Shenango and Otsego counties. And regarding flood watches, we do have flood watches in effect for Otsego and Shenango County at this point, due to the potential for some minor flooding along those creeks and rivers. And again, alert day for today. We have wintry weather starting out as wet snow, switching over to wintry mix, then over to rain showers. We are timing it all out in that full forecast coming up. Back over to you, Steve.
All right, Eric, thanks a lot. Crews with National Grid and NYSEG are on standby to respond to any potential outages, but it's important to remember a few things. If a power line comes down, assume it's live and stay away from it. Second, if you have a generator, make sure you keep it outside. And if you have a loved one who depends on electricity for life support equipment, you want to make sure they're registered as a life support customer with their utility. For National Grid customers, that number is 1-800-642-4272. And of course, stay with News Channel 2 and WKTV.com throughout the day and tomorrow morning for the latest on this storm. Other news for you now, the Rome man who admitted to killing his own parents was sentenced in the Oneida County Court.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Good afternoon and welcome back. Active weather starts to begin now. We are starting to see some of that wet snow falling, lighter at times in some locations, a little heavier in others based off of those snow bands. A live look at downtown Utica. Wet snow is currently falling. Roads are fine for now, but again, that could change, especially in those higher elevations as the temperatures continue to remain right around freezing. 31 degrees officially at Griffith and Rome. Winds picking up 14 miles per hour right now, and those gusts will continue to rise as the afternoon and evening hours approach. Look at those current wind speeds across New York State. The strongest winds are actually out in portions of western New York. 74 mile per hour wind gusts reported in that purple right there. Thankfully, we're not going to see those strong of winds, but again, those hilltops, as you can see right there in the red, are the highest chances of seeing those strongest, possibly damaging winds. And a live look at the Yorkville Battery Storm Tracker 2 Doppler radar. For the most part, widespread snow is starting to fall over our area. Some areas lighter at times, the darker blues indicating heavier snowfall rates. And a look at the bigger picture here, we've got that surge of moisture coming in from the south. This is going to drag in all that wet snow into our area over the next several hours. So you could be seeing tricky travel situations as you head into the evening commute. Now, regarding snowfall accumulation, some of this snow might accumulate on the ground, but it won't last too long because rain will follow that after a wintry mix, turning things over to clear roads by the overnight hours. Now, what we have here in the Northeast is a bit of a strange setup. We've got strong high pressure to the north, a strong low pressure down in the southwest. Now, this has a very strong gradient from high pressure to low pressure, and when you have such a strong gradient, winds will also be strong, and that's the case here in central New York locally. We've got windy conditions set up during the evening hours tonight along top of that wintry mix, rain, and unfortunately some flooding concerns in flood-prone areas. So regarding wind gusts, again, gusty winds this afternoon, nothing major, even into the early part of this evening. Right around 5 p.m. onwards is when things start to get a little bit more windy, between 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts and then 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts as the evening hours continue on. And this is right when we could be seeing some minor wind concerns and even some wind damage on the slopes on the northwestern side of these hilltops. This is all due to a southeasterly wind, so on the downsloping side, these red areas right here, both in parts of Otsego County, Madison and Oneida County, same thing up near Old Forge, and of course up in Watertown, those are the highest risk areas. The strongest winds come to an end by tomorrow morning, but I think it's a good idea to start charging some phones and batteries just in case. And regarding snowfall, again, we're still expecting some snow. Not a lot of it will accumulate on the grounds, especially in the lower elevations and in the southern valleys, but the cold air might stick around a little bit longer in the North Country during the early evening. But regardless, all this snow will eventually melt as everything switches over to rain overnight tonight. And how much rain are we talking? Well, enough to have a bit of a little concern on flooding, at least for some parts of the area, minor flooding in flood-prone areas. And again, the snow will still start out this afternoon, switching over to rain eventually by this evening, and then widespread rain during the evening hours, gradually drying out by early tomorrow morning. And so again for today, highs in the mid-30s, wintry mix, windy conditions. Tonight, warming up, surprisingly, near 40 degrees. And your 7-day forecast, tomorrow starting out warmer, cooling down throughout the day with some rain showers switching over to some light snow. And we're still tracking another similar system to this as we head into this coming weekend on Saturday and Sunday. Steve?
All right, so for folks that wanted the winter, keep an eye to the sky. All right, thanks a lot, Eric. As we touched briefly on earlier, a storm system in Florida spawned some tornadoes. Check out Panama City Beach, where a tornado caused some major devastation. You can see debris littering the roadways and what appears to be some collapsed walls. The storm system moved through overnight. The threat of severe weather in that part of Florida continues today, with several watches and warnings for thunderstorms, tornadoes, high surf, and flooding in effect until at least the later part of this afternoon. Coming up, it's not just part of a plane that blew off of an Alaska airport. And welcome back to this half hour of News Channel 2 at noon. Get ready to hold on to your hat. It's going to get windy around here, talking some 40 to 60 mile an hour sustained. Meteorologist Eric Gage tracking the weather system about to hit the Mohawk Valley. Eric, good afternoon once again.
Good afternoon, Steve. Yeah, that's right. Going to get windy as we approach the afternoon and evening hours. On top of that, we've got concerns for travel issues with wet snow. And then following that, we're talking about the potential for some minor flooding in flood-prone areas. So a lot to get through this afternoon. But first, a live look at Oneonta right now. Snow rates starting to pick up once more as a stronger snow band is pushing in from the southwest. A bit on the lesser side of snowfall as we head into Utica, but again, that will change. Wind speeds already in between 15 and 20 miles per hour in some locations in the purple in western New York have seen wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour. And the radar right now, we are looking at a darker pigment right here in the southern valleys, indicating heavier snowfall rates pushing through the southern valleys into the Mohawk Valley as the afternoon progresses. And the bigger picture, of course, the winter system is still pushing through our area. And for today, it will start out as wet snow until the early evening. Then the warm air continues to move in. The wet snow switches over to a brief wintry mix, then over to rain showers, and a good amount of rain showers overnight tonight before things do cool down by tomorrow evening. But again, before that, we are talking about those wind speeds and power outage potential and wind damage potential coming up. Back to you, Steve.
All right, and it's not just the wind. You were saying the heavy, wet snow, so between trees, power lines.
Yeah.
Probably a good idea if you haven't started, just charge some of the batteries and keep an eye to the sky and keep the forecast handy as well. All right, thanks a lot, Eric. Well, millions of other Americans are also dealing with the wet snow, so between trees, power lines.
Yeah.
Probably a good idea if you haven't started, just charge some of the batteries and keep an eye to the sky and keep the forecast handy as well. All right, thanks a lot, Eric. Well, millions of other Americans are also dealing with severe weather. One storm walloping the plains with blizzard conditions and heavy winds, and the south getting hit with torrential rain and tornadoes, as we mentioned earlier. NBC's Maggie Vespa is in hard-hit Des Moines, Iowa, with more.
Des Moines, Iowa getting hit hard overnight. When we got here yesterday evening, there was really like an inch on the ground at the most. And now we're at close to half a foot and counting, with close to a foot expected in some parts of the state by the time this thing wraps up later on this afternoon and into the evening. This, by the way, is wet, heavy snow. You can see it's fat snowflakes that basically stick right away. Exactly the kind of stuff that makes officials worried about dangerous road conditions. Several local school districts already canceling school, and also power outages. To that point, more broadly, as of this morning, we had close to 250,000 Americans in the Midwest and South mainly without power. More broadly, 54 million Americans woke up to winter storm alerts. That was from Texas up into Michigan and the Midwest, obviously Iowa as well, and into the Northeast. Another big concern is wind. Yesterday, we had wind gusts topping 70 miles an hour. Nebraska, in particular, was a mess. It was crash after crash after crash. Local authorities say at least one of them was fatal. And then just speaking to kind of the massive footprint of this storm down in Florida, we have schools canceled because they're worried there about the possibility of tornadoes throughout the day spawning from this, again, same huge system. And in the Northeast, we have torrential rain moving in. This after that region got hit with snow over the weekend. So when you add rain to the melting snow in that area, officials there are very concerned about the possibility of severe, even flash flooding. Maggie Vespa, NBC News, Des Moines, Iowa.
All right, Maggie, thank you. As we mentioned earlier,
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Good afternoon and welcome back. We've got a lot of weather to talk about for this afternoon. Starting out, we've got wet snow arriving in central New York this afternoon, switching over to a wintry mix, then over to rain. On top of that, we're talking about possibly damaging winds and power outages heading into the overnight hours, and then beyond that, minor flooding concerns in flood-prone areas. So getting into all that throughout our weather segment for today. A live look at Oneonta right now. The snow is falling. You can see the characteristics of the snowflakes as they're flying into the camera. It is melting as it reaches the camera too as well. These snowflakes are wet and they are dense, which means that, of course, the wet and dense snow, which isn't the best combination when it comes to wind gusts as well as power outages. Around the state, regarding wind speeds, those winds are starting to pick up. 15 to 20 mile per hour winds across a lot of central New York. Highest wind gusts and the highest elevations on the northwestern side of the southern valleys, as you can see here. Even wind gusts as high as 70 miles per hour as you turn your attention south of Buffalo. And a live look at the radar right now, we've got some higher snowfall rates picking up in the dark blue regions right there. Low to moderate snowfall taking place in portions of the Mohawk Valley, but behind that, the moisture is starting to fill in. We had dry air near the surface this morning, preventing that snow from reaching the ground. Now the moisture, the atmosphere is saturated, meaning that we're going to start seeing some more of the snow push through the area. But notice to the south, there is green slowly moving in. That's that warm air surging in from the south. It will take a little bit, but it will eventually turn to all rain during the overnight hours tonight. Now, we've got a very, I wouldn't say completely unique setup, but not a common setup here in central New York. We've got very strong high pressure north of us, a very strong low pressure south and west of us. Right in between these two pressure systems is what's called a pressure gradient. And think of it as a slope or a slide. And of course, a higher gradient means a faster wind speed. And of course, as you can see here in the Mohawk Valley and in the central New York area, the highest wind speed set up, of course, right here in the area itself. And our forecasted wind gusts regarding this afternoon, you can see it starting out on the breezy side, turning more windy, and then as we head into the evening hours between 4 p.m. until roughly midnight, that's when most of those winds do start to diminish, is when we'll see those wind gusts between 40 and possibly 60 miles per hour on those hilltops, again on the back side, the northwestern side of these hilltops. And this is mainly due to the fact that local trees in our area are used to strong winds from the west. They're not used to strong winds from the east. And with that on top of downsloping, which is when those winds converge over hilltops and then start to free fall on the other side, we're looking at the highest potential for damaging winds in these red areas, as you can see on the map. Now, on top of that, we do have some snowfall that could accumulate briefly this afternoon and this evening, but it won't stick around, as all this will eventually turn over to rain showers overnight tonight. But this is a good idea of where the snow sticks around the longest. And regarding the snowfall, you can see right here, snow starting out by 4 or 5 p.m., still the highest elevations north and east Utica still remaining as snow before it finally switches over to entirely rain by the overnight hours. And so again for today, a wintry mix this afternoon and this evening, windy conditions, temperatures surprisingly rising overnight tonight with those low temperatures only in the mid-30s. Your 7-day forecast, we're monitoring yet another system like this as we head into this coming weekend. But before we get to that, let's just tackle this system as it progresses.
News Channel 2, live at 5 News Hour with Kristen Copeland and Jason Pallas.
It is a Storm Tracker 2 alert day, and this is what we've been dealing with. Started early this afternoon, sideways snow, and then some rain, and now concerning winds.
Let's take a live look outside from our downtown Utica Nexus camera.
Oof.
Snow coming down sideways in some spots. Wind damage is going to be a strong possibility as the night progresses, and National Grid is preparing for that. We're going to check in with the utility company in just a minute. But first, what Chief Meteorologist Bill Cardis is tracking. So we're going to start with the snow.
Yes.
We're going to start with the snow and then the rain and the wind.
The headline so far has been the snow and slippery roads, but this is going to change quickly to wind. The winds are really going to ramp up as we head into tonight. We've already been getting some reports of damaging winds over 70 miles an hour in western New York. I don't think it's going to be that strong locally, but again, just kind of confirming what we're already seeing out there. Again, heading home, it's going to be a challenge, especially in and north of Utica with snow on the ground and slippery conditions. Measured wind gusts over the past hour, 25, 30, 40 miles an hour. Again, stronger winds will be working in over the next several hours. A gradual transition from snow to rain will take place as we head throughout this evening as warmer air works in aloft. Current temperatures 33 at Griffiths and Rome, and again, we will see that transition. It'll take its time, and roads will be messy for the next several hours, and then we track the winds, and we're going to take a look at how strong they get as we head into late this evening and look at the forecast coming up. Jason, back to you.
Bill, thank you. The high winds could mean lights out and heat off, but utility companies say they're preparing in a number of ways.
News Channel 2's Kirk Tupai spoke with National Grid today.
Weather conditions around the state are delivering a mix of rain, heavy snow, and gusty winds. National Grid's strategic communications manager says they've already activated a comprehensive emergency response plan.
When it became clear that this was going to be a significant weather event, we looked at our field force and what we had available and started making decisions about securing external crews.
The emergency response plan includes mobilizing external line crews, pre-staging crews and materials in the areas anticipated to be most impacted, and keeping in close contact with emergency management officials.
We've brought in a number of extra crews, both from in and out of state, to assist with this storm. And, we know that other utilities are doing the same across New York, across the Northeast, because this is going to be a wide-ranging a storm that's going to affect customers all the way up and down the eastern seaboard.
Utility companies depend on the latest forecast to determine where to send their crews. Storm Tracker 2 meteorologist Eric Gage says this weather event is expected to be a little different.
Accuracy is important, is mainly due to the fact that we want to let people know the primary zones of where the highest winds can occur. For example, in this event, the northwestern sides of these hilltops due to the southeasterly winds. In some cases, it might be different locations, but it's why it's important that we want to emphasize the highest risk zones for our area.
If you lose power, your heat will likely be affected, and there are things National Grid warns against.
What we don't want people doing are things like using their gas oven or their gas stove for heat. You don't want to leave an unattended burner because that's a fire hazard. It's a burn hazard. And there's a potential for, if the flame goes out when you're not paying attention, that natural gas seeping into the house can cause a carbon monoxide emergency.
To report outages and downed wires, call 1-800-867-5222. If you happen to live in an area where you're covered by NYSEG, you can call 800-527-1131. In Utica, I'm Kirk Tupai reporting for News Channel 2.
Governor Kathy Hochul delivered her State of the State address in Albany today.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Good evening. Slippery conditions for the drive home. Many of us are still seeing a wet, very slippery snowfall. Let's take a live look outside. Multiple different views here across the area of road conditions from North Genesee Street to Route 8 and Route 20, that intersection in Bridgewater. Most of us, again, dealing with a challenging drive home. And that's been the story so far, but things are going to change. The snow is going to turn over to rain, and it's going to take a little while for this to happen, but we will see this changeover take place over the next several hours. Until that happens, it is going to be a tough go. This is a look at our traffic tracker. There's lots of oranges showing up here across the area. Again, just a slow, tough drive home if you're heading out over the next couple of hours. The headline continues to be snow, but again, it does turn over to rain tonight. The winds are going to be picking up, and that is going to be the headline as we move forward. Again, this transition taking place tonight. You can see the blues clashing with the greens, and I think there's some ice in between. There almost always is when you have this push of warm air, but I think any sleet, freezing rain will be very, very limited here. This push of warm air continues. You can see how things have been changing over the past couple of hours. Rain starting to work into the lower elevations, especially west of Utica, and that warm air will continue to work in. Winds are just starting to pick up. I think they climb into the 50s, wind gusts over 50 miles an hour over the next several hours. Again, the really strong winds have not arrived yet as this area of low pressure moves in. As you look at the radar and satellite image, the low pressure center is approaching, and again, the winds will be picking up as that storm system moves in. So again, the strongest winds taking place between about 6 to 11 p.m. and then the winds will start to die down. Storm Tracker 2 Skycast by 8 p.m. Again, most of us over to rain, a couple of stragglers north and east of Utica. Raining tonight, temperatures climb into the 40s overnight, and some rain showers early Wednesday morning, switch over to snow showers throughout Wednesday afternoon with temperatures in the low to mid 30s. Peak winds, again, expected to be around 9 to 10 o'clock this evening, 40, 45, 50 miles an hour, some cases even higher than that. Again, with that wet snowfall combined with this wind, there is the possibility of some power outages and tree damage heading into tonight. Snowfall for tomorrow, again, we do expect some light snow to return to our area tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening, but the numbers are pretty low here, only thinking a trace to an inch of snow for the lower elevations, 1 to 2 inches for the hilltop locations. Snow changes to rain tonight. Again, damaging winds possible until about midnight. Temperatures climb above freezing. Tomorrow, rain turns over to snow showers, an early high of 42. Storm Tracker 2 7-day forecast. Thursday, snow showers 36, looking dry on Friday. And yes, that's not a mistake. We've got another alert day. Friday night into Saturday, this looks similar to what we're dealing with now with a wintry mix along with possible damaging winds. It's going to be a rough couple of days here.
Just an odd pattern.
Seems like it's all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill, thank you.
Millions across the central and eastern United States woke up today to find property damaged or threatened by tornadoes, flooding, even snowfall, depending on where you are.
Laura Aguirre brings us more on these widespread and violent storms.
The sound of severe storms battering several states along the East Coast south through Florida Tuesday.
Is everyone okay?
One Florida storm chaser capturing these pre-dawn images after he says he saw a tornado touchdown in Grand Lagoon. He helped guide first responders to a woman trapped in her house. Possible twisters up to EF5 strength, the highest tornado category, are a strong threat along with heavy rain and hail across that state up into Virginia, according to the Storm Prediction Center.
The clouds were solid black.
Over 40 million people are under severe storm threats Tuesday, many waiting to see what property damage they may suffer in the coming hours. Inland and coastal flooding, another huge concern. States like New Jersey watching rivers rush past their banks.
We look at the crest at 9.3, the previous storm, it was 8.4.
Despite warnings from officials, some severe storm veterans remain unrattled.
We're used to storms around here. We like them.
People are used to it, so we'll manage.
Tough conditions linger in the central U.S. and Midwest, where winter storm warnings in some areas are expected to roll into Wednesday. And the cycle of severe weather begins again with a new winter storm alert announced in Washington state. I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
We're following some breaking news regarding a school bus crash, and there are students still on board.
We'll have an update on this storm. It's an alert day, Bill.
Yeah, and I know the big story so far has been the snow and the tough drive on area roadways. We'll get to that in just a second. I wanted to give folks an update on winds. Maximum winds today so far between about 25 to 35 miles an hour locally, but these are expected to ramp up over the next couple of hours. We're expecting wind gusts to top over 50 miles an hour in parts of our area. So damaging winds still in the cards tonight. The worst of this happens between about 6 to 11 o'clock this evening. We're tracking snow that continues to fly across central New York, but we've been keeping a close eye on and tracking warmer weather to the south and west. You can see a clear changeover to rain as you're heading west of Utica. That will eventually arrive across the area over the next couple of hours. But until it does, it is going to be a tough go. So look at road conditions across the area. Again, budget plenty of time and take your time if you do have to head out. If you don't have to head out, best to stay home at least for the next couple of hours before that changeover takes place. We're tracking, again, how strong the winds get tonight and when all of this comes to an end, and that's coming up. Jason, back to you.
Bill, thank you. We are following breaking news on a school bus crash.
The News Channel 2 newsroom, there was a bus off the road in Westernville. A handful of kids on board. These are elementary school students from the Rome City School District. They left school about 3 o'clock. This picture sent to us from a parent who was not able to take their child from the bus, as it is protocol to put the students on another bus. We are told that process of transferring buses happened moments ago. This is Gifford Hill Road. No reports of any injuries. In the North Country, earlier this afternoon, a truck hauling logs overturned. A viewer sent us this picture of Route 28 just south of Eagle Bay. State police say there was no impact to traffic, and there are no reports that anyone got hurt as a result.
Let's get you back to the Weather Center with Chief Meteorologist Bill Curtis.
All right, we're continuing to track conditions across the area. We're seeing a changeover take place from snow over to rain. In some cases, a brief round of sleet and freezing rain before that transition fully happens. This is a live look in downtown Utica where the snow continues to fly, but it is starting to change. Look at Cooperstown, 39 degrees, and it's turned over to rain here, and same thing with Oneonta. And we can see that changeover happening here as we take a live look at the Yorkville Battery Storm Tracker 2 Doppler radar. Again, it's showing snow directly to rain, but I'm suspicious that there's a brief round of ice between that transition. So again, roads will continue to stay very slippery from areas north and east of Utica for the next couple of hours, and then our focus becomes the wind, because yes, it has been a windy day so far, but the strongest winds are expected to take place over the next couple of hours. We're thinking the winds will really increase in strength between now and say 7 o'clock and stay strong through 11 o'clock this evening. We've been seeing wind gusts in western New York up to 70 miles an hour. We're not expecting it to be that bad across our area, but again, some damaging winds are possible. Wind gusts 40, 45, 50 miles an hour, certainly in the cards. We're tracking the weather that's going to become much less serious here for tomorrow. The winds will calm down. The precipitation comes to an end. Look at that forecast is coming up. Jason, back to you.
Bill, thank you. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
The snow has been the big headline so far, but things are going to be changing as strong winds arrive over the next couple of hours. If you are heading home this evening, the evening commute has been a tough go across most of central New York. This precipitation starting out as snow as expected, and even though we didn't get a lot of accumulation, most areas 1-2 inches of accumulation, it's that really dense snow, and it's making the roads really slippery. As a live look at conditions across the area, we've been noticing a changeover taking place over the past hour across portions of the lower elevations, and that is going to continue as we head into tonight. So look at our traffic tracker. Again, a slow go tonight. Lots of oranges showing up. Traffic moving very slowly across the area, and there are multiple accidents as well. So again, just take your time and be safe on the roads. The roads are going to be messy over the next couple of hours. We'll be dealing with the wind later this evening. That really ramps up between about 7 to 11 p.m. When we're expecting some of those stronger winds to arrive. The morning commute, the afternoon commute tomorrow look a lot better as the winds die down and rain turns over to just a few snow showers. Live look at the Yorkville Battery Storm Tracker 2 Doppler radar. You can see the contrasting colors here. Snow continues to fall north and east of Utica, but again, as that warmer air builds in, we see that transition over to rain. It is raining south and west of Utica this evening, and that warm air is going to continue to lift in from the south and west. You can see the change here over the last 3 hours, noticing more greens and less blues as that warmer air starts to work in. Peak wind gusts tonight, again, 50 to 55 miles an hour expected. Again, the strongest winds here between about 7 to 11 p.m. Looking at the radar and satellite image, low pressure is approaching from the west, again, carrying that warm air aloft, and again, expecting that changeover to take place. Widespread steady rain continues tonight. Very windy early tonight, and then the winds will be dropping off as we head past midnight. Temperatures tomorrow start out in the upper 30s. Steady rain comes to an end, so the morning commute not looking too bad. It's a breezy day tomorrow with scattered snow showers. Temperatures look to cool down throughout the day, dropping into the low 30s here by Wednesday evening. And again, peak winds over the next couple of hours, still expecting wind gusts 45 to 55 miles an hour across the area. The winds will drop back tonight. Breezy conditions tomorrow. Snow accumulation tomorrow. Yes, we do expect to see another light accumulation, a trace to an inch of snow for most areas. But north of the Mohawk Valley could pick up an inch or two of accumulation. Tonight, rain, windy, low of 32. Tomorrow, looking at an early high of 42. Rain turns over to snow. And again, a light coating expected. Storm Tracker 2 7-day forecast. Snow showers Thursday, 36. Dry Friday, 35. Another strong storm system arrives Friday night and into Saturday. A lot of parallels to that compared to what we're dealing with tonight with wind and a wintry mix. And it's getting a lot colder with snow showers in the forecast Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. We'll be right back.
Snow plus strong winds equals a Storm Tracker 2 alert day.
And Chief Meteorologist Bill Curtis tracking from the Weather Center with the very latest. Let's get right over to him.
Headlines so far have been all about snow, which has taken place this afternoon. The roads have been very messy, but a transition over to rain is taking place, and we're not expecting the roads to be as slippery going forward. This is a live look outside from different cameras. Different camera angles from North Genesee Street to the arterial to Route 8 and Route 20 on Bridgewater. And the general idea is that rain is starting to creep in from the south, and we're seeing that changeover take place on the Yorkville Battery Storm Tracker 2 Doppler radar. The other big story here, the wind. We've been seeing winds pick up throughout the day. The strongest winds have not arrived yet. They're expected to ramp up here over the next several hours. We're still expecting wind gusts 45, 50, 55 miles an hour. The strongest winds between 7 to 11 p.m. this evening as an area of low pressure approaches. We saw wind gusts in western New York over 70 miles an hour, but we're not expecting the winds to be that strong locally. 35 degrees, the current temperature. Again, the winds have been picking up throughout the evening, and we'll expect more of the same as temperatures continue to rise. It's actually going to be warmer tonight than it was all day as any snow that's continuing to fall turns over to rain across the area. So we're tracking the strong winds, rain tonight, and some cooler weather to follow. A look at the forecasts coming up. Jason, back to you.
Bill, thank you. The latest storm brings the possibility.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Good evening. We continue to track a wintry mix moving across the area. It's predominantly snow changing to rain. Here's a live look outside. Road conditions have improved. It was a messy go this afternoon as precipitation started out as snow, and it's that very dense snow. So even though we haven't had a lot of it, most areas reporting 2 inches or less, it has made the roads very slick. Conditions will improve. In fact, we're already seeing traffic pick up. This map had a lot more orange on it than earlier. This is our traffic tracker. But again, do take your time if you're heading out this evening. Roads are going to be slippery for the next couple of hours as that transition to rain takes place. Winds pick up over the next couple of hours. Strongest winds between 7 to 11 p.m. Wind gusts could still top 50 miles an hour. So power outages are still on the table here as a possibility. And heading into tomorrow, the weather does quiet down. We're going to see a lot less wind and just a few rain and snow showers. Live look at the Yorkville Battery Storm Tracker 2 Doppler radar. Again, a changeover from snow to rain taking place as warm air builds in aloft. This is how things have been changing over the last 3 hours. Again, noticing less blue and more green as that warm air is starting to make some success moving in across the area. Winds are expected to pick up this evening, and I don't want you to focus on the numbers themselves, but the strongest winds between 9 p.m. to about midnight or so, and wind speeds are going to vary tremendously based on topography. The strongest winds are going to be along the higher elevations. The radar and satellite image again continues to show low pressure approaching from the west. Again, a changeover to rain takes place tonight, and widespread rain will fall throughout tonight and into early tomorrow morning. Flooding is still possible in flood-prone areas in addition to rain topping between about ½ inch to 1 inch. We're expecting some melting snow. Winds are going to continue overnight and then gradually decrease throughout Wednesday. Wednesday morning, much quieter. Breeze in the morning to afternoon, but not going to be as windy. We will see some snow showers later in the day. In fact, some accumulation is expected here late in the day, especially along higher terrain. Winds pick up over the next couple of hours. Again, wind gusts between 45 to 50 miles an hour. The winds will be dropping back tonight after midnight, and then breezy conditions here as we head into Wednesday. Some accumulating snow tomorrow. Again, rain turns back over to snow. For most areas, just a trace to 1 inch of accumulation, but north of the Mohawk Valley, 1 to 2 inches is expected. Rain tonight, temperatures will rise throughout the night into the 40s in the morning. Rain turns back over to snow as we head into tomorrow afternoon, 42 again early in the day. Storm Tracker 2 7-day forecast, no showers on Thursday, 36. Friday looks dry. And we've issued another alert day for the next weather maker, Friday night and into Saturday. This has a lot of similarities to what we're dealing with tonight with a wintry mix, as well as some wind. Again, the time frame would be Friday night and into early Saturday. It gets a lot colder in the wake of this storm that we're expecting for the weekend. Temperatures in the 20s.
All right, Bill, thank you.
Still to come on News Channel 2 at 6, we reveal the latest.
Watching News Channel 2 at 10 on CW 11 with Jason Palace.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. The snow is over. Now the rain and high winds are here, and those winds contributing to mass power outages around the area. Here are those outages around the viewing area. Over 5,900 in Oneida County without power. That's down from about 8,000 just about a half hour ago. In Herkimer County, over 3,600 without power, and in Otsego County, 360. Let's get the very latest now on the storm from Chief Meteorologist Bill Kardis on alert day. And how much longer could we see these? Wow, those are shocking numbers for winds. I mean, we knew it was coming, but still.
I'm actually kind of happy that it wasn't as bad as it could have been. We were thinking maybe 50, 55 on the high end. It ended up coming in at about 45, but still, I mean, you've seen how much damage that has happened from this, so we didn't escape this one. Looking at some of the wind gusts, this is not done, but the worst of it will be after about midnight. We're going to start losing these 35 to 45 mile an hour wind gusts. Fastest wind speed recorded, it was just after 8. It was actually 8:34 p.m. Griffiths and Rome, 43 miles an hour. Again, a lot of places saw wind gusts over 40. Currently still gusting to 39 miles an hour. Look at Watertown, 78 miles an hour. There's some terrain that's going on there, some funneling of the wind there. But still, that's impressive to say the least. Looking at the Yorkville Battery Storm Tracker 2 Doppler radar, wind will gradually subside. We're tracking widespread rain, and it is pouring out there. Temperatures are above freezing, and we'll stay above freezing tonight as temperatures rise into the low 40s. We're going to keep an eye on rainfall totals. We're also going to talk about any possible flooding here, along with when things quiet down. Look at the forecast coming up. Jason, back to you.
Bill, thank you. Back to those power outages now. Power companies had a lot of heads up for this one tonight. News Channel 2's Kirk Tupai tells us about the series of events that happens when there's the possibility of losing power.
Weather conditions around the state are delivering a mix of rain, heavy snow, and gusty winds. National Grid's Strategic Communications Manager says they've already activated a comprehensive emergency response plan.
We started this week thinking that it was just going to be confined to northern New York, and now we're looking at a situation where it's such a much larger footprint of people that could be impacted.
The emergency response plan includes mobilizing external line crews, pre-staging crews and materials in the areas anticipated to be most impacted, and keeping in close contact with emergency management officials. If you lose power, your heat will likely be affected, and there are things National Grid warns against.
What we don't want people doing are things like using their gas oven or their gas stove for heat. You don't want to leave an unattended burner because that's a fire hazard. It's a burn hazard, and there's a potential for, if the flame goes out when you're not paying attention, that natural gas seeping into the house can cause a carbon monoxide emergency.
The responsibility of predicting where that damage might take place is placed on the National Weather Service and forecasts from local television stations.
When there's concern for wind damage and power outages, of course, everyone needs to know the risk for that, the potential wind gusts, where the wind's set up. We've been doing research, especially on the location of where the strongest winds are likely to occur.
To report outages and downed wires, call 1-800-867-5222. If you happen to live in an area where you're covered by NYSEG, you can call 800-527-1131. In Utica, I'm Kirk Tupai reporting for News Channel 2.
Governor Kathy Hochul delivered her annual State of the State.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's Chief Meteorologist Bill Curtis.
Good evening. As you can see in our parking lot tonight, still that coating of snow, but with temperatures above freezing and rain that will continue tonight, a lot of the snow that did fall today will melt. Road conditions are in much better shape, and that will be the case through tomorrow. Still raining at a steady clip across central New York. This is a live look at the Yorkville Battery Storm Tracker 2 Doppler radar. Rain continues to move to the east. We'll see a lull in the precipitation tonight, but it does pick up as a cold front approaches from the west. Traveling will be a little bit tricky tonight. We've been getting some tree damage, some power outages, so just keep that in mind if you're going to be on the roads tonight. The weather improves tomorrow. We're looking at a few sprinkles in the morning and just a few snow showers tomorrow afternoon. And tomorrow evening, the winds will be dropping back quite a bit. In fact, let's take a look at the winds. After midnight, the winds start to diminish, and it becomes more noticeable after, say, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. By tomorrow afternoon, we do have a wind that comes in from the west, and it does pick up throughout the day, but it doesn't look to be anywhere near as strong. Thinking wind gusts top out between about 25 to 30 miles an hour tomorrow. So a breezy day, but not like the wind that we're experiencing tonight. Low pressure continues to approach from the west. This is bringing a cold front with it. And that cold front arrives tonight. Again, it's going to bring another round of some rain here. So far, we picked up about a ½ an inch of rain. We're going to continue to keep an eye on rainfall totals. I think we'll be below limits for any flooding concerns, but we will keep an eye on things overnight, and we can't rule out any possible flooding in flood-prone areas. Wednesday morning, temperatures start out in the mid to upper 30s, expecting generally dry weather in the morning, and then a round of some light snow is expected in the afternoon and evening. This is expected to accumulate. In fact, we're thinking a general inch or two of accumulation tomorrow afternoon along higher terrain. Even a ½ an inch to an inch of snow is possible in and south of the Mohawk Valley, again, as that rain switches over to some snow tomorrow evening. There's expected to be additional light snow tomorrow night and into Thursday. Tonight, rain, low of 32. Again, temperatures really rise throughout the night, and we'll start out tomorrow with the temperature near 40, but it cools off throughout the day. Rain showers turn over to snow showers, and again, becoming less windy, still a breezy day. Storm Tracker 2 7-day forecast. Snow showers on Thursday, 36. Looking dry and cloudy Friday, 35 degrees. We've got another alert day on Saturday. We've got another potentially strong weather system that approaches, and it looks very similar to what we dealt with tonight, starting out as a wintry mix, starting out as snow Friday night, switching over to rain by Saturday. Windy conditions are possible late Friday night and early Saturday. And it does look much colder in the wake of this storm with the potential for some lake effect snow and windy and much colder conditions with highs in the 20s and overnight lows in the teens Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. We'll be right back.
Watching News Channel 2 at 11 with Jason Powers.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. The snow is over. Now it's rain, and high winds are here. And those winds contributing to power outages and damage around the viewing area. Take a look at this viewer-submitted video. It's from Westernville. A tree came down, took out power lines and 2 pickup trucks. Looks like some damage to a home as well. No word on any injuries at this time. The winds were relentless. We're going to check in with Bill on the wind speeds in just a moment. First, though, here are the latest power outages across our viewing area. Just under 3,800 in Oneida County without power, over 3,100 in Herkimer County without power, and 360 in Otsego County. Now for the very latest on the storm. It's an alert day. Chief Meteorologist Bill Curtis, how much longer can we expect to see these winds?
The peak winds, maybe for the next couple of hours, the winds are going to die down tonight. I have to say, we were pretty lucky that these winds were not stronger. We obviously had a lot of damage and power outages, but it could have been worse. We look at the wind gusts in our area. Peak wind gusts between about 40 to 45 miles an hour. The peak wind at Griffiths and Rome 43, Herkimer 42, Woodgate 40 miles an hour, Coldbrook 39. This is a look at the latest wind gusts. Watertown 58. An hour ago, Watertown measured 78 miles an hour. 78 miles an hour. That's a Category 1 hurricane. It's just unbelievable how fast it was up there. again, as we head into tonight, the winds will be dropping off. We are still tracking some rain. We're going to keep an eye on river levels and streams. Right now, there's nothing serious to report going on with that, and we're not expecting too much more additional rain tonight. Current temperature is 36 degrees at Griffiths in Rome, 38. And this evening, we're going to be continuing to track rain as temperatures rise. The rain will be coming to an end tomorrow and a much quieter day heading into tomorrow afternoon. But we're tracking another one. Look at the forecast coming up. Jason, back to you.
All right, Bill, thank you. Back to those power outages now. Power companies had a lot of heads up on this one. Tonight, News Channel 2's Kirk Tupai tells us the series of events that happens when there's the possibility of losing power.
Weather conditions around the state are delivering a mix of rain, heavy snow, and gusty winds. National Grid's strategic communications manager says they've already activated a comprehensive emergency response plan.
We started this week thinking that it was just going to be confined to northern New York, and now we're looking at a situation where it's such a much larger footprint of people that could be impacted.
The emergency response plan includes mobilizing external line crews, pre-staging crews and materials in the areas anticipated to be most impacted, and keeping in close contact with emergency management officials. If you lose power, your heat will likely be affected, and there are things National Grid warns against.
What we don't want people doing are things like using their gas oven or their gas stove for heat. You don't want to leave an unattended burner because that's a fire hazard, it's a burn hazard, and there's a potential for, if the flame goes out when you're not paying attention, that natural gas seeping into the house can cause a carbon monoxide emergency.
The responsibility of predicting where that damage might take place is placed on the National Weather Service and forecasts from local television stations.
When there's concern for wind damage and power outages, of course, everyone needs to know the risk for that, the potential wind gusts, where the winds set up. We've been doing research, especially on the location of where the strongest winds are likely to occur.
To report outages and downed wires, call 1-800-867-5222. If you happen to live in an area where you're covered by NYSEG, you can call 800-527-1131. In Utica, I'm Kirk Tupai reporting for News Channel 2.
Governor Kathy Hochul delivered her.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Good evening. We are continuing to track windy weather and rain tonight. This is a live look at the Yorkville Battery Storm Tracker 2 Doppler radar. The back edge of the heaviest, steadiest rain that we've been dealing with for most of the day is starting to push to the east. We do have more moving in from the west. In fact, we're going to be seeing a cold front arrive tonight, and that will produce more rain, but there will be a break in between. Traveling tonight, again, it's rain and it's wind, but the weather will be improving. Just a few rain showers around tomorrow morning. Snow showers return in the afternoon and evening, but it does look a lot less windy. The strongest winds are now. Over the past 2 to 3 hours, you've been seeing peak wind gusts between about 40 to 45 miles an hour. The winds will subside after midnight. It stays breezy tomorrow, but the winds will just not be as strong as today. We're thinking peak wind gusts this time from the west will be between about 25 to 30 miles an hour, a much lower wind speed, and we're not expecting damage with this tomorrow, but it still remains breezy as colder weather works in. This area of low pressure is approaching from the west, and it will move to our north and east tonight. It drags with it a cold front. So tonight, temperatures will continue to climb. We'll see temperatures in the 40s very early tomorrow morning with a continuation of rain and slowly melting snow. By tomorrow morning, the rain does come to an end. Temperatures will be in the mid-30s. It's possible we could have some flooding issues in the morning, but right now it doesn't look to be widespread. Definitely check back for updates. Heading into Wednesday afternoon, we're expecting a return to light snow. Temperatures will fall into the low 30s in the afternoon and evening, and snow showers will continue heading into tomorrow night. In fact, that is some lake effect snow forming overnight and into early Thursday. Snowfall to the north, expecting a couple of inches of accumulation tomorrow in the Mohawk and Southern Valleys, a trace to an inch of snow. So again, snow does return. Some slippery spots for the evening commute, mainly north of the Mohawk Valley. Additional snow is expected tomorrow night as well as Thursday. Rain tonight, a low of 32. Again, temperatures will be above freezing all night. We'll start out tomorrow morning with temperatures in the low 40s, and it'll cool off throughout the day. Rain turns to snow showers, again, turning much less windy. Storm Tracker 2 7-day forecast, snow showers Thursday, 36. It's dry on Friday, but another powerful storm arrives Friday night and into Saturday. This one is very similar to what we're experiencing tonight. Starts out as snow, turns over to rain, and it could be accompanied by gusty winds. The difference, though, is what is behind this one. We're tracking cold air and some lake effect snow chances heading into the weekend and beyond, with highs in the low to mid-20s. We'll be right back.